Welcome to the Reimagine podcast. Each week we'll explore insurtech innovation from our incubator based in Hartford, Connecticut. From startups to scale-ups, innovators to entrepreneurs, we'll bring you conversations with people making it happen in Hartford.
Hi, this is Paul Tyler with another episode of the Reimagine podcast.
Hey, Paul.
Kate, we're not live in Hartford, are we?
No, we're in Rollin' Vegas, baby. Rolling the dice.
Yeah, and so we're actually broadcasting live from the Hartford. How do I want to describe the Hartford?
The Hartford VIP
base.
suite.
A suite,
right.
exactly.
Hartford
Exactly.
VIP
Just go for it.
at
Talk it
ITC.
up. They can't see
Yeah,
it. So.
exactly.
And it is
With a-
actually very nice in here.
With a very special guest, Mr.
That's
Rob
right.
Galbraith,
That's right.
author of, actually better known as the most interesting man in insurance. Welcome.
Yay.
Thank you so much, Paul and Kate. It's so great to be with you. I love your podcast. You have some fantastic guests, so it's an honor to be with you today.
Oh, thanks. Oh, I mean, gosh, one of the first things that we did when I came to Nassau was, put down our wish list of folks that we wanted to speak with. And you were at the top of the list, my friend, because,
Oh, wow.
You have such an engaging presence online, but also just, I don't know. Your enthusiasm is just infectious. So we thought, great.
It was natural. Kate's like, should I get this guy? I'm like, are you kidding? Yes.
And I will argue now. We talked about this before we went live that you are now probably the most photographed man in
That
insurance as well. So
Could be. I'm sorry, insurance. So.
Yeah.
But I don't know. A balding white guy, maybe.
Well,
sadly,
hey,
is,
be
Now,
careful.
hopefully, that's the changing face of insurance. Certainly,
I
when we
walked
get
right
more
into that.
diverse.
I walked right into that.
So we're getting a lot more diverse folks.
That's
and a
right.
lot more young folks into our industry, so very excited. So maybe I'm not quite over the hill yet. So maybe I'm a good blend of the old and the new.
Not at all. Well, welcome. I mean, Paul, where should we start? I mean, we now have Rob here.
Oh, we do. Well, first of all, before we dive into your book, what's your perspective? How many InsurTech Connects has this been for you?
So that's a great question, Paul. So this is the fourth year of the event, and
Right.
this is my second ITC, and I feel like a veteran already, having been here now a second time. And I talked to a lot of folks yesterday. I tried something. I don't know if it's going to work out, but I did a video diary. So I'm doing a day one, day two. So I just
excellent.
kind
Love
of,
it.
instead of a selfie, just kind of a quick 30 to 60 second video with different people that I would run into. And so when I talk to them, the difference between those that it's their first time and the second time is just a mile wide. Those that are coming in, they know it's a zoo, they know it's crazy, but they don't know exactly what to expect. Whereas those that have been here even one time before, even if it was a couple of years ago, they're just so much more confident. And because it can be overwhelming. I was really overwhelmed last year.
It's a lot.
And so I've actually purposely planned in some downtime. Well, okay, so I planned in downtime. I haven't had any yet, but I was thinking
Right.
about what I had to eat yesterday. So I came in from New Orleans, so I had a breakfast sandwich in New Orleans, and literally all day yesterday, and I went to bed at like 11 at night, 3 cookies and a bag of pretzels. That was
Yeah.
it.
You were carb loading. That's what
I
it
guess
is.
I wasn't intentional. You're just going all the time.
Yeah. So I've actually been to every one. Wow.
Wow.
Have you really?
Yeah, I've been to all.
Wow.
Yeah. I talked to Jay early on when he was like considering doing this. I'm like, of course you should do this conference.
Yeah.
So I'll claim that. I should have gotten some shares in this conference.
Absolutely.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Where was I?
Just a fractional piece of equity.
Yeah. So this year to last year, and I know this is super premature. It's like, but we've had a number of pre-meetings. In fact, just so people understand, we're actually we've got a strategy session going on behind us on
Yep.
We
a
do.
number
This
of.
is the Hartford War Room.
It is.
Yes, absolutely. It has that feel to it.
It is. So any early thoughts around what's different in terms of the vibe, the tone, who's showing up to the conference?
Yeah, I would say kind of one theme on that, and then one theme in terms of I guess content or themes that I'm already hearing. So the first is last year, a lot of people, somewhat like myself, were very wide-eyed. A lot of people didn't know why they were here, to be honest. It was like, I was told I needed to be here.
Right.
It's like, what's your plan? What are you hoping to accomplish? They really had no idea. There may be a few of those folks still, but I think those folks didn't come back because it was very overwhelming. It can be a very overwhelming experience. 7,000 attendees. That's just massive and just a 2-day conference, and we had kind of a pre-day yesterday. But so there's still quite a number of newer people, but I think they are much more focused on innovation, or from either from a carrier side or an agency side. They had the Agency Connect yesterday, so that was kind of a big add to kind of address the agent broker world, which I think had been underrepresented in the past. So people still may be new, but I think they have a better idea of what they're hoping to get out of it. And then the theme that I've already kind of picked up on is it's not about the technology, right? I think the early years, the early buzz was the possibility of these emerging technologies and what they could bring to our industry. And over time, people that have been working in this space realized, just like with everything else with insurance, it's hard. It's hard to really apply these technologies.
Right.
There's a lot of nuances. I was in a session talking about IoT yesterday, and so some companies have really wrangled with that and really struggled with that, but those lessons learned are really starting to pay off. And so you're actually starting to see some deployment, some things actually in a production environment that's being used by consumers and benefiting customers and businesses, and starting to show some real promising results. So that part is super exciting, that all this hype that we've had over the first 3 years or so, we're really starting to see the early fruits of all that labor and hard work. People are solving the mystery of insurtech.
Well, it must be hard, just because there are so many great ideas, and there's it's almost, the shiny object syndrome. That's a really cool thing. And then when you bring that shiny object back into, really the legacy world of data or technology that you've built within your business, it's not everything can plug in directly. So what I'm noticing, just from my first time here, so what I'm noticing is that there are organizations who will actually be that pipeline to help get between the carrier and the startup in order to make that more of a seamless procedure, because you want to iterate, you want to be fast in this market, but it's kind of, I'm learning it's kind of hard from what I'm hearing.
So you guys are a perfect example of that in Hartford, right? So you have the NASA incubator, but then you've got Accelerate. I mean, you have this amazing ecosystem. I would say it's one of the best in the world, if not the best in the world right now.
Okay, you heard it here first.
So yes,
folks.
it is on my, yeah. So you can quote tag me with that quote. But no, and you're absolutely right, Kate. I think that's where, and I've talked to startups, and they say that. There's just a dearth of kind of, yes, there's some accelerators and incubators, and there's some great folks doing great work out there. But in terms of the number of startups versus the number of those support kind of organizations, there's so much more opportunity to help bridge those connections. So I love what you guys are doing at NASRE and Hartford in general. And I love that it's so communal. That comes out in your podcast and then everyone that I talk in the Hartford community. It is truly a community. And I don't know that very many other folks have that, maybe in Des Moines, but certainly like in Silicon Valley, there's a lot of folks kind of working in that space. But I don't know that I would describe it as a community in the way that you guys are in Hartford.
Yeah, well, our perfect world, we take the elevator down and have just some interesting conversations over coffee on our floor. That's our goal, Rob. So hopefully you're coming up there, soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So just talk about your. You've been doing some really interesting stuff. Your book's like I'm seeing it everywhere. I'm waiting for that sale. I've been reading the excerpts.
Wow.
I actually was going to download it on the plane, and I didn't. But I've listened. I think the message you're kind of putting out is. I think it's exceptionally useful for a lot of people inside carriers who are trying to figure out how do I make sense of this. I think it's also useful for startups trying to figure out what meeting did I just have and what are these people doing. I mean, can you tell us any kind of stories that have come out of that book, from people, taking this and applying it?
Absolutely, yeah. So a great example is Lanaya Nelson, who's here in the room with us from over at Hartford. Right. She came to my book launch event in Hartford. That was in mid to late March. And so she was talking with a startup that had a meeting with a very large carrier in the Hartford area. And she said, you really need to read this book to prepare for that meeting. And so they did. And they said, oh, my God, that meeting went swimmingly well because it armed us with the language of business. The story that I tell everyone, I was meeting with a startup a couple years ago, and I really didn't understand the technology, but it looked really cool, and I thought it might have some applicability. And so I asked them, me really just trying to understand. I was like, so this is going to help me reduce my frequency, right?
Yeah.
And just met with blank stares. They had no idea what I meant when I said frequency. And so this is kind of an insurance 101 term. And so, that shouldn't be the barrier for a startup to be able to do a deal with a carrier, is this literally language barrier, right? Just because they don't speak insurance. So that was one of the target audiences I had for the book. And so I have a glossary in the back. I have a lot of those. You don't have to read an insurance textbook or a agency licensing exam prep book to get some of that quick crash course. And so then the other part is exactly what you were saying, Paul. So, myself, I'm 20 years in the carrier world. I've been going to my underwriting CVC Society conferences for years and really enjoyed it. And in 2015, all of a sudden, somebody came from Silicon Valley for the first time. And it was like, oh, we don't get too many Silicon Valley types at our conference. It's in Indianapolis this year, Why are you here? And it was all about disruption and whatnot. And this is really before partnerships really became in vogue. And so I kind of had that inkling, like something is different. And just meeting with a lot of startups, I just would walk away from an hour meeting, different technologies, different startups, but just I saw a glimpse of the future. What a cool feeling. Like, this is what insurance is going to look like 10 years from now. And so I wanted to be able to share with people what that experience was like on the carrier side, and to let them know that it's coming faster than they think it is.
Yeah,
Always.
I can agree more. Just like for the last few ITCs, you said last year there were a lot of people who were kind of in awe.
Yeah.
My takeaway was it was kind of the first year the carriers showed up in mass. You had the people who were the pioneers, the early adopters.
The one innovation manager.
Right.
Would
exactly.
show up, I'm sure.
So now you've switched roles. Okay. You've worked at arguably one of the most innovative companies. And again, and I don't want to put you on the spot with the carriers and things. And there's always what the PR says and what it is, and I'm sure there's always the truth somewhere between. You spent 20 years working for arguably one of the most innovative carriers in the space, large one, and now you're working for a small one. Is that correct? A different part of the country.
Smaller. It kind of depends on what you. Yeah.
So what's your insight? If we had somebody who's an innovation manager. Working for a chief innovation officer, what's the recipe for success over the next couple of years? I mean, how should companies start thinking about innovations in their company?
So I was fortunate enough to be a session moderator for the Insurance Thought Leadership Workshop on innovation yesterday with Guy Franker. So I attended last year as an attendee and was just blown away. I mean, it was one of the most valuable things that I've ever attended an afternoon. And so what Guy really walks people through, and I love this, it's, we often think of innovation as starting with the ideation phase, right? Oh, let's brainstorm, let's have a bunch of ideas.
Right.
He's like, that never works, because as you start fleshing out some of those ideas, you're inevitably going to run into constraints, right? And those might be IT constraints, those might be executives, so strategic, that's not what we want to do. We don't want to change our distribution model, things like that, right? So he says, you really need to start up front with, what are we hoping to, and his question is literally, why innovate? And he doesn't want just a boilerplate answer. He really wants your organization to focus on, why are we doing this? What are we hoping to get out of it? And let's be crystal clear about that. And it'd be great if we actually had some metrics around it, not just some clean by, yeah, I feel good. Then after that, it's kind of what are the boundaries? What are we absolutely not going to change about our organization? And again, let's be clear about that. Doesn't mean we couldn't, but we've decided philosophically, right, we're not going to do X, Y, and Z, whatever that is for your organization.
Sure.
Now that you know what you're trying to accomplish and what those boundaries are, then you can focus on what he calls the strategic operational areas or organization areas. Strategic opportunity areas.
Got it.
SOA, I always give the O. So, where can we innovate, and where does it make sense? Where do we see opportunities, right, in the marketplace? And then once we identify those areas of opportunity, we can dive a little bit on that. That's when you get to the ideation phase. Now we know what we're trying to accomplish. We know what we are willing to do, not willing to do, and we've identified some broad areas of opportunity. Let's go to that ideation phase. And so I think it doesn't matter if you're large, small, mid-size, going through that process is critical. And then the last thing I'll add is, having gone from a large carrier that was over $20 billion in premium to one that's just going to pass $2 billion for the first time this year, your resource constraints are much more limited. And so you can't just throw bodies and money at everything that's out there. So you've got to be extra disciplined about what you do. That doesn't mean that the larger carrier is going to be more successful in innovating. It just means that they have more opportunities to fail. And so as a smaller mid-size, you've got to be really disciplined about where you're focusing resources. It doesn't mean that failure is not an option, right? That's part of innovation. But it just means that you've really got to do your homework as you place those bets.
Yeah, and in many industries, innovation is always the capital I innovation. It's, what is the big thing that we can make a lot of noise about? But sometimes innovation is the little nuance, either in your culture, your setup, your infrastructure. That's still innovation. It doesn't mean you need to put a press release out about it, but it might change your business, for sure.
Absolutely. So Guy had a great case study yesterday that's actually based on a real-life example where a company had spent 18 months and over $2 million deploying a smart home type solution to their customers. And it wasn't until they got to the go-to-market and they did some focus groups with customers that the feedback was, I love the technology and I love your business model. I do not want this for my insurance company. I don't think of you as being somebody that's wired into my home. And so if they had done that homework up front and worked with their customers up front to recognize, hey, it doesn't matter what their offering is, you're just not going to be interested in that, you could have moved on and gone to a new idea.
Right, totally.
Yeah. Well, your story about Lanaya just tells me, we should get this for our we should get copies of your book for our startups. In fact, we will, and maybe you can come and sign them next time you're up.
Absolutely. No, okay. I'd be happy to.
All right. Well, listen, I want to be respectful of your time, and we've got a swirl of activity here.
Could we just take a moment, though? And I know this is an audio medium that we're working on, but if you folks, we'll take a picture of it, but if you folks could see, Rob had brought us.
Tell us the story.
Yeah, please. Tell us your gift.
So, quick story, and this is actually very representative of ITC. There's so much going on that moment to moment your schedule can change. So I think I had 3 different plans last night, and I got a text from somebody, are you coming to the Aerosmith concert? Didn't. Well, we have a ticket if you want to come. And so it's like, okay, well, I can do Aerosmith. I can go to some suite. I can go golfing. Yeah, I'm going to go to the Aerosmith concert. So, I was probably 20 feet from Steven Tyler last night, and just unbelievable experience. Totally a Vegas type thing. And so at the very end, of course, they brought down all the confetti and a bunch of balloons and all that. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of decor for your setup here
this is awesome.
In the suite. So I brought some yellow and white confetti, and I told Kate that it fell all on Steven Tyler. Now I don't know which piece did it, but let's just say right. Yeah. So.
Well, thank you so much, Rob.
Yeah, Rob. Thank you. So, hopefully this is first of many, especially with all the great work you're doing.
Absolutely. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Kate. I really appreciate being on. And just for folks that are interested in the book.
Absolutely. How do we find you? How do we find the book? Where is it?
So it's sold exclusively on Amazon. It's in paperback and Kindle version. And I'm happy to report that I have a woman that's working on recording an audiobook version.
Excellent.
So I know a lot of podcast listeners have told me that's the number one question I get. Is there an audiobook version? So I'll let everybody know when it's out there, but definitely look forward to it. It will also be available on Amazon. And if you want to find out more about the book, go to endofinsurance.com. So there's a lot of reviews and some video content. I put all the podcasts out there. And so that's a great way to get more information.
How do we find you on social? Twitter? Best place?
Everywhere.
So I've been a long time social media guy, so definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. Always happy to connect with folks. Twitter, I'm at ROBGALB, Rob Galb, and so Twitter's my favorite. I probably do a little bit more on LinkedIn now than Twitter, but Twitter's still my first love, I would say.
Yeah.
And then Facebook and Instagram. And I like putting a lot of fun photos on Instagram, so some of those photos from the concert last night are on there, and my family and whatnot, so absolutely.
All right. Well, great. Listen, thank you very much, and we'll see you on the floor.
Fantastic. Thanks, Paul. Thanks,
Thank
Kate.
you.
Thanks.